Hi, my name is Amanda Tayler. I'm a lecturer in early childhood studies at Staffordshire University in the UK, and what I want to do today is share with you some of the findings from my early doctoral research. I'm 4 years into a part-time professional doctorate in education, and these are my findings so far. The aims of the presentation are really to give you an overview of the study so far. What I want to also give you is a bit of an insight into the political context currently in the United Kingdom. I'll also offer you an idea about my theoretical framework and my data collection methods. I want to share with you as well my initial findings. These are obviously really early findings after one round of data collection. I've done some preliminary analysis that I'd like to share with you, and also where I think the study should go now. The approach taken to gathering this research is one of narrative, so it's about storytelling. And what I want to do is I want to tell the stories of early years teachers in the field, and in its final form I want the thesis to have a look of a storybook detailing individual accounts as a collection of tales. So I'm just going to offer you an overview of the study now, or how the story will unfold. My research aim is to explore what it means to be an early years teacher, or EYT, in this place at this time. My research questions are: what are the significant experiences and who are the significant people in early years teachers' work lives? And so then, to what extent do these help to shape pedagogy, relationships and the identity of the early years teacher? And from that, I want to identify if common themes and features can be pulled from these individual stories. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the political context in the UK, or as I'm going to call it, the story behind the stories. So globally, the early childhood sector has undergone professional transformation in more recent years, as political gaze has turned towards the early years as a bit of a magic bullet, a silver bullet into curing societal ills. Despite this attempt by successive government policies, the literature in the field suggests that those working in early years remain undervalued and underpaid, with early years being referred to as the Cinderella of the education sector. So what my study aims to do is look at the experience of early years teachers in England, and a preliminary analysis has highlighted some significant findings in that actually the participants don't feel undervalued and they do feel able to perform their role. The theoretical framework, or the golden thread, that I'm going to use to pull this story together is Holland et al.'s idea of figured worlds. It's a socio-cultural theory which has been applied in this instance to explore the early years teacher's identity. This concept is malleable and is a good tool for examining how identity is produced by individuals and continues to be reimagined across time. So what it suggests is that identities are always in flux, and figured worlds are the personal, social and cultural realms that individuals inhabit, and that they share collective imaginings in their realm. What I want to call them in my study is realms, as I think this fits with the idea of storytelling in a much easier form. So furthermore, Holland et al. Suggest that the individual's ability to recognise deep-rooted social and cultural norms within these realms may need to change, and this implies individual agency on their part. And what it also recognises is an existence in multiple realms, and what that informs what it means to be a teacher in that place at that time. So if we apply this to this study then, the realms that EYTs currently inhabit can be identified as the early years setting, the place of study and the wider early years community. Further analysis on participant responses may reveal more, but at the current time I can identify 3. This study will also have elements of autoethnographic research, so it's my story within their stories. It's defined as thus by Adams et al. As a research method that uses personal experience, auto, to describe and interpret, graphy, cultural texts, experiences, beliefs and practices, and that's the ethno. My story is entwined with theirs as we share similar experiences of being in practice. I hold the qualification early years professional status, which was the forerunner to early years teacher status, and I was in practice before I was a lecturer as a nursery manager and a preschool manager. So I've kind of lived their life. I've lived a similar path in my workplace. Importance is placed upon storytelling within this, and personal narrative can offer thick description, and this would allow for a deep understanding of life in that realm. So I just want to introduce how I I found my participants, or my characters as they're going to be referred to throughout the study. They were recruited via social media, so Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn and other professional networks in the United Kingdom, and also university alumni pages. So these individuals were not familiar to me, and I wanted to try and reduce my possible influence upon their responses, so to reduce any kind of personal and professional bias. An online questionnaire developed by Qualtrics captured the thoughts and experiences of early years teachers from across England. What I found was that they're working in a range of different settings, from special schools, maintained nursery schools and sessional care. They perform a variety of roles, such as managers, teaching assistants and class leads for children with special educational needs and disabilities, and so far all have been female. So just to talk to you a little bit about my data collection methods, or finding the ways to get the stories, I conducted a pilot data collection, which was a closed WhatsApp group where participants were invited to post about significant aspects of their working day, and this was to prompt discussion amongst the group. However, this method tended to need me to keep stoking the dialogue, and the responses tended to share good practice, which was brilliant, but it wasn't really what I was after, so I needed a bit of a rethink. So I developed online questionnaires using Qualtrics, and interviews that involved using a sandbox were devised. So the questionnaires captured the responses from all around England. The respondents had gained their early years teacher qualification status via a number of different study routes. The questionnaire asked them to identify significant people and experiences from the workplace that shaped their practice. The respondents were then asked to take part in an interview using a sandbox and figures, and the aim of this was to recreate some of the significant experiences that they'd indicated on their questionnaires. So it was a creative method which I hoped would elicit responses. However, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about COVID-19, and at this point in the study I'm going to refer to this as the villain. So there were some unforeseen consequences of the pandemic. The sector was thrown into unprecedented circumstances, and I lost contact with most of my planned interview participants. Different ways of learning and teaching and training at my own institution became the priority for several months as we prepared to take students back in September. Home learning for my school-aged daughter also took up an awful lot of time. So really it was back to the drawing board at this point. I put out a new shout out on Twitter and found further participants who were willing to take part in interviews. But even when schools and nurseries reopened, there were still some issues to overcome. What I hadn't realised was that sand was banned in many settings due to COVID-19 and the risk of cross-contamination. What I also found was that some participants were reluctant to engage in an unfamiliar way of conducting interviews, and the logistics of participants being able to use sand away from the setting also proved problematic. However, at this point, some interviews have been conducted using the sand, and they've been recorded on Teams and FaceTime. Others have been recorded with using Teams and WhatsApp, but these participants have preferred not to use the sandbox. Furthermore, this new approach threw up some ethical considerations, and a new ethical approval document needed to be fulfilled before I could undertake further study. I needed to really think about the use of social media and how I was going to protect the anonymity of my participants. How was I going to use and store the video recordings of the interviews and any snapshots that I wanted to take to highlight points I was making within my discussion. Also the location of the interviews. I was being invited into sometimes the homes of the participants, which is a private space, a private realm, and not one of the workplace, which is what I was investigated. So I need to be mindful of being in a position of power and entering what participants might regard as a safe space, i.e. their home environment. So far though, I've done some preliminary analysis, so I've tried to make sense of the stories that I'm reading. Thematic analysis, as discussed by Cohen et al., was used to make sense of the questionnaires. So what this did was it revealed some commonalities, but also some very individual responses. After transcription, the same approach was used to explore the interviews. Some similar themes were identified, but also some new gems were discovered. So just to share with you a few initial findings. Early indications from the questionnaires have revealed that early years teachers, for the most part, feel they're able to be what they envisage an EYT to be in their settings. Many of them placed importance on training and learning from experts, so that links to the realm of the early years community. They feel they play an important role in supporting their colleagues' professional development as well. So that's the realm of their setting. They also feel able to lead learning and ensure positive outcomes for children. Some initial findings from the interviews indicated that the part played by academic learning around theory and research to support their pedagogy was deemed important by most respondents. So this links to the realm of the place of study. Tensions in settings were identified when EYTs wished to initiate change. There were mixed responses when they considered whether the EYT qualification enabled them to take a more prominent leadership role in the setting. However, all of them talked about the impact of the pandemic upon what they believed to be their best practice, but all stated that they were in awe of the way the children had coped throughout the last few months. At this point, I'd like to share with you a couple of little gems, some real hidden treasure within my responses. One preschool leader stated that the role is multifaceted, and she referred to herself as a jack of all trades, which implies that she realises that she has a foot in many different realms and that she's a participant or an actor in many different realms. Another participant recognised that her role was often one of performance. "We open the doors and it's showtime," was what she quoted. So this is a nursery class teacher who recognises that she becomes something else in that realm. So just to share with you now a couple of snapshots of some of the participants using the sandbox and characters to recreate important scenes from their day. This is Jay and she's a nursery manager. And this is M, she's a preschool manager. So what happens now? So more interviews are going to be conducted, followed by further analysis. Participants are going to be offered the choice of interview approach as they wish to participate in, as this is a study concerned with voice. So what I'm really concerned with is capturing the early years teacher's voice. And really the method I do that is secondary to be able to tell the participants' stories. Many thanks for listening. My email address is on the first slide. If anybody would like to get in touch and ask any questions, I'm happy to share further research in the future. Thank you.